Let's see if I'm sharing the right screen. If y'all give me just a moment here. I think I may be sharing the wrong one. I am. Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in for our grant recipient guidance, and congratulations. You are grantees with the South Carolina 250. Those are some actual fireworks over Charleston from several years ago, and we'll be seeing some more of that. Now that we have the people's money, we want to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible. And we're going to do that by making sure that we're doing reports. So a lot of our time today in our demos will be related to the reports that are due. We're going to have a status report. You may have more than one depending on your timeline for your grant. And those must be completed by you, the grantee. It's based on the award date. The final report is also completed by you. And that one is the one that's a little more complicated, and it has financial receipts, proof of deliverables, marketing, measurement of success, and all of those proof of payment and receipts that you need. So those are the two biggies. Then we also have what we call site visits. This is completed by us, the staff. So we will reach out to you. You may get a notice saying that one is coming up. And I'll reach out to you and say, is there a good time that we can do a Zoom or just a phone call and get an update on making sure we're all staying on task so that we're meeting all of our deadlines, and see if we need to do any updates. Now, all of our status reports are due in the system in Web Grants. So the Discover SC Web Grants program, again, thank you to PRT for letting us use that. The biggest thing to remember, obviously, is save your receipts, but not just your receipts. Make sure that you are documenting proof of payment. That means if it's a credit card receipt, you proved you paid for it already. But if you have an invoice, you need to make sure you not only have an invoice marked paid, you need to have an invoice plus a canceled check. So it's really important to have proof of payment, and make sure you're collecting that as you go. As someone who's done tag grants and other things in the past, it is so much easier if you collect as you go. Now, some of the things that reminder that you cannot pay for with your grant funds, that's insurance, travel, and food. There are a few exceptions to that have been pre-approved, but again, no alcohol, no in-kind for required match. So things like that, just keep those in mind as you collect those receipts. Document your deliverables as you go. Read your contract, and we'll be looking at an example in a little bit. We'll use that contract to finish our final report, and we'll look at the deliverables, and we'll go number by number and prove that we've done each one of those deliverables in our final report. Take photos at events and the items that you purchase. Save tear sheets, quote unquote, tear sheets of all your advertising. And of course, we've got to document that measurement of success. That means if you have an event, you're counting the number of people. That means that you're using your Google Analytics and your website analytics when you're looking at how many clicks you get based on that QR code. So gather all of your social media interaction. Track that measurement of success as you go. It'll be so much easier in the end. Now, if you do see that there's some things that need to be changed, maybe you need to make some slight changes to the budget allocation. Obviously, we're not going to increase the amount, but the budget allocation may need to change up a little bit. Maybe you need to change your scope of work or your timeline. Those are contract amendments, and we can do that. They do have to be officially approved by our executive director, our CEO, but you can do a contract amendment, and I'm going to walk you through one in just a few minutes. We're open to changes, but please talk to us first before you go and make major changes to your grant. And please reach out prior to grant deadlines and reporting deadlines. I often get asked about procurement. So you need to follow your fiscal agent's procurement policy. If your fiscal agent does not have a procurement policy, then we do have the basics of what South Carolina does for best practices, and we can share those with you. And I'm going to show you where you can find some of that information on our website in just a moment as well. So when we pay out our grants, we do 80% upfront, and we had to work really hard to get that approved because most state grants are reimbursement grants. But we knew a lot of you out there had no money to spare, so we went ahead and did 80% upfront. But do know that that final 20% is a reimbursement. That final 20%, and this is not the match, this is the actual grant amount. We'll have to wait until the final report is completed and approved before you'll get that final 20% reimbursed. So make sure that you've got some cash flow to be able to handle that. Now, if it would keep you from finalizing your project, reach out to us and we can work on with you on this. But we do need you to think about having that cash flow for that final 20%. And also making sure you're documenting your match, which is a different 20 or 25% depending on your grant, or you may not have a match required. And we'll talk about that in a moment as well. So we're going to jump straight into demo time. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and we're going to share my screen one here. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at our website first. Can everybody see the website here? Let's see if it's showing the correct thing. Yes. Okay, excellent. So we have the resources is where you can find grants. So you go down to grants. And then scroll down. This is where if you need to do a consultation with me for any kind of reporting, you can sign up for a consultation here. Once we have this webinar finished, you'll be able to click on this page and go to the webinars, and it'll be up hopefully by the end of the day, if not by the end of the week. And over here is grant recipient guidance. So I'm going to go click on grant recipient guidance. And there's lots of great stuff on here. Talks about if you're getting a state vendor number, which most of y'all did in advance, which I appreciate. It gives you instructions for signing your grant agreement, which most of y'all have done already. Talks about doing this briefing like we're doing today. And how you get your 80% upfront and 20% reimbursement and completion and approval of report paperwork. Here's the fiscal guidance. And these are some best practices from state procurement and a link to more information. Matching funds, this talks about how the matching funds work. And a lot of people ask us about using our logo. So if you need a high-res logo, it's here on this page under the citation section. We have also a verbal acknowledgement at an event and a print acknowledgement. And you can also have some marketing tips like you can do here to review the toolkits to look at best practices. A press release, a sample press release is here. And also you have organizational photo release, 18 or older photo release, or minor photo release. So don't forget to get those photo releases for pictures that you're taking. Status reports, site visits, and final reports and closeout. As we said, status reports is going to be in your grant, and we're going to go walk through that in just a moment. And some pro tips are listed here. If you don't know when your reports are due, I'm going to show you how you look those up by looking under status reports and finding what's listed there. And we also have the step-by-step on how you complete a status report, step-by-step on completing a final report right here on this webpage. You can also, if you have timesheet you need to keep up with, if you have travel reimbursement, we do have some that are still allowing for travel based on when they were started, based on their circumstance. They may have been approved, so just keep that in mind. And then right here is brand new link that I just added yesterday. Use this form to review your finances. So I've created a spreadsheet that we're going to walk through to help you. If you can do your own, but this is what I've created to help when you're going through and keeping up with receipts, because receipts tend to be a jumble and it gets very confusing very fast. And I beg you, for both our sakes, use a spreadsheet that helps us both keep everything organized. And we're going to go through that shortly. And then we can request a contract amendment. There's a step-by-step there. So lots of great information on this web page under grant recipient guidance. And once again, resources, grants, and then scroll down until you find it. Now let's go ahead and jump in the system. I'm going to log in as my external user. I have a user that, so it looks like what y'all's looks like. So I'm going to sign in. And now I'm going to go to my grant. It's time for me to do a report. So I'm going to go to my grant and I'm going to find the grant that I want to do my report for. And it's easy to search by the number. That's a good way to find it. So here's my grant that's underway. And there are a couple things to look at. I'm going to start by looking at my contract. Now, why am I doing that? I'm going to look at my contract because I want to see what I promised I'm going to deliver. So I actually, when I went to do this final report and type up an example for you guys, I printed out my contract so that I could go step by step and match each one of these numbers here. In section B is where we see the expected outcome, which are your deliverables, and success will be measured by, these are our measurements of success right here. So this is all in section B of your contract. A good pro tip for using this system is go up to the top and print the PDF first. That way you can see everything on one screen when you go to print it. So the first thing I did was go to my contract. So I'm going to go back now. I looked at my contract. It's now time to do status reports. It's the third one down. And I'm going to go ahead and see what's in here, because please ignore the withdrawals. I've used this one before, but you see that I still have in editing mode both a status report and a final report. So this tells me when my reports are due. So I have one due on November 15th, and I have one due on May the 15th of 2026. That's my final report due. So we have, this tells me when my reports are due. If for any reason you don't see reports already listed, you can reach out to us, or you can also add your own. You can do a report at other times if you'd like. And you just add a status report, mark it as either a semi or a final, give it a title. And for final reports, I just put final, put the dates which you're reporting for, and save your form, and you'll have a new report. But we've preloaded for most everybody. You should have your reports already preloaded for you so you know when they're due, and it sends you a note reminding you to do your report. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my semi-annual report first. So for my semi-annual report, I'm going to hit edit. It's going to take me to the top of my screen. Every time I hit edit, it takes me to the top of the screen. And then you come down here, just like when you're doing your application. Anytime you hover over something and it turns green, then you can click on it. So I'm going to click on Status Report version 2. And again, I'm going to edit my form. It takes me to the top. I scroll down. And this status report is going to ask me a bunch of questions, basically getting me ready for that final report. Have you reviewed deliverables listed in your contract? Yes, I have. Are you documenting those deliverables and the process as you produce them? I am. Have you reviewed the measurement of success listed in the contract? Have you been collecting documentation as you go along? Are you collecting numbers and demographics from participation? Yes. If you have interpretation design work, a publication, a website, etc., that needs to go to peer review before production, have you already submitted it? If you don't have these types of materials, you can actually skip this one. It's not red, so you can skip this one. All the red ones you have to complete. But I'm going to say, yes, I've already submitted it. Are you taking pictures? Are you collecting proof of any publicity or press releases or social media? Are you matching your timeline from your application? If no, please explain in the scope of work component and decide if you need to request an extension in the form of a contract amendment. So I'm going to say no here, and we're going to ask for an extension, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Are you collecting receipts, including invoices and proof of payment for both your grant funds and any required match? Don't forget to collect proof of payment from third-party vendors like ad agencies, etc. How much of your budget have you used so far? So I'm going to say I've used $2,500 of my budget. Are you looking to adjust any of the deliverables or measurements of success? Have you moved more than 10% of your budget from section to section, not line to line, but from section to section? Do you need to have an extension? So this is asking, do you need a contract amendment? So we're going to say, yes, we need a contract amendment. If normally you would say no, but we're going to get an extension on our timeline. So scope of work, this is for a play. So I'm going to say the play script took longer to complete than expected. We will be asking for an extension on the first benchmark. And then we'll say rehearsals, or I should say auditions, have occurred and rehearsals are underway. It could be as simple as that. Give us an update of where you are and tell us what scope of work. Answer any questions. Anytime you said no up above, tell us why you said no. All right, measurement of success. We're going to say we had a large turnout for auditions, and community interest is showing on social media with social media interaction. Okay, and then successes or challenges. And I like to just say successes, turnout for auditions was favorable. And we'll say challenges, completing script took longer than expected. That's as simple as it can be on these status reports. They don't have to be that complicated. You can write a lot more than that. Obviously, I'm doing it short for us today. I'm going to save the form. If I had my script completed, I would probably go ahead and attach my script. So I'm going to add a new attachment. Notice that this attachment section doesn't show up until you've hit saved. And again, when you hit save or when you hit edit, it takes you to the top. You scroll back down. You find your documentation. Anytime you see the little paper clip, that means you can attach something. So we're going to add a new attachment. I'm going to browse, find my script that I want to attach, give it a description, and then save the file. And then once I have everything complete, everything's in there that I needed to do, I'm going to mark it as complete. I'm going to submit, and just like on our application, we now have 2 check marks here under complete. We now have the green go ahead here, and we have a submit status report button. Once we hit this red button, you can't edit. Before that, you can edit all you want, but once you hit this red submit, it's now submitted. So we can now look at our status reports, and you'll see submitted. So that's the easy status report part. But all of that's getting you ready for this final report. So let's jump into a final report. Does anybody have any questions before I go forward so far? Okay, anything in the chat right now? Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead then and do this final report, and I'm sure we'll have other questions later. So I'm going to edit my status report. And once again, you're going to see I'm going to complete each section, but I've got more sections this time. And I'm looking for those check marks so this red section will turn green. So I'm going to go to narrative and click on that. And I'm going to edit my form. My first question, and I've already filled this in, was my deliverables. So I looked at my contract and they were labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on my contract. So I labeled my responses in this final report 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number 1 on my contract, and I'll turn it over and read it to you. It says completed script about Baxley County and the American Revolution. So I wrote Baxley County and the American Revolution script was completed in April of 2025. Then we have number 2 on my contract says, while poetic license will be taken to dramatize the events, peer review will be included to ensure that all events are as accurate as possible. So my number 2 on here, grantee peer review was completed by Dr. Franklin at Baxley College, May of 2025, with SC250 external review completed in early June of 2025. The attached final script includes all edits. And as you see the pattern here, I look at my contract, I look at what was required in my deliverables, and then I come back and I state that I have completed each one of those. And then my next question on here, some of these in your contract, you'll be required to provide a template so that other communities can do a similar project. If you are, then this is where you would include that information and you would attach that to your report as one of your final deliverables. So the rest of you who don't have our template as a requirement, we do ask you to give some advice. So if someone does a similar project, we might say use local celebrities in your production to maximize publicity. That's just some advice if you're going to do a play about the American Revolution. Can everybody still see my screen? Okay. All right. We've got measuring success. There are a total of 763 attendees for the production. So when I look back at my contract, I said under the success will be measured by review of the following. Number 1 was attendance at the event. So I put in here my attendance. Number 2 was media coverage. And I say that local radio and newspaper both covered the event. I have social media interaction, and I have received a total of, let's say, 10,000 impressions with lively discussion, see screenshots. And then number 4, so you get the point. Again, we're looking at our contract. We're looking at what the measurement of success was. We're coming in here and we're saying that we've done that, and we're giving those numbers and those parameters as we study those options. All right, our next one is publicity. So we have attached the press release, script for the local radio ads, clippings from the local newspaper, social media, paid advertising, very successful, 40% of ticket sales coming from originating from the social media, including Facebook and Instagram. So that's what I wrote for my publicity response. And then we see in here the timeline that you had in your application. Now I say script took longer than expected, but we caught back up during the audition period. All of the benchmarks were met. Now as we scroll down, we have the public served with public funds. So we did a school show, and we know what age they were because we know what classes they were. So we had 253 9 to 13-year-olds. And then general public age unknown, we have 510 that attended the performance. Again, all made up, but just to give an example. And then I didn't really have anything I wanted to add under other demographics or notes, but you can add anything else that you want to share here. As I save my form, it's going to take me to the very top once again. And as I scroll back down, just as before with our status report, our final report, once you're in save mode, will give you these sections that have the little paper clips so you can attach your document. So it's not just that you're going to say that you've completed the script, you're going to attach the script. It's not just to say that you've done publicity. When you get down to the publicity section, here's another attachment section. I'm going to actually attach the press release, attach the articles that were written. I'm going to the script for the radio ads. I'm going to attach that. So there are lots of ways that you can document both your measurement of success and your deliverables. And any other attachments can go at the bottom. However, this is not where you put your invoices. So this narrative section is just where you're going to put all your documentation for your narrative. Let's pretend I got everything attached. So I'm going to mark as complete. And I now have 2 check marks. Now, the next section is expenses. And I was on a call even just this morning, and this can be very confusing. But what we have on this next section is we see that we have, if I hit edit, it makes more sense. Scroll down here. This first column is what you said in your application is your budget. And you had different lines under these categories, but this is the summation of your category for supplies and materials. So we said we were going to have 6,250, and we actually ended up having a little bit more than that. So I put 6,250, and then the extra I put over here. Let's see, we've got 2,050 here, 2,050 here, 1,500. I had a little overage, so I put 1,500 here and the overage over here. So in the end of the day, these 2 numbers need to match. This is your grant total from your original application budget. This is the actual receipts budget. This over here is your match. Now you're going to see that we've got a cost match broken out with some in-kind cost share. This does not count towards match, but it does show that you have buy-in from the community, and we like to see it if you can. It was in the original application, so I wanted to include it here. Now, the easiest way, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I want to show you my spreadsheet. The easiest way to fill out this form is to complete the spreadsheet that I have. And I'm going to show you, can everybody see my spreadsheet now? Let's see. Okay, good. So now we have, ooh, too big. This is an example of all the receipts that I had for Rise and Fight Again, the Baxley County play that we're going to be putting on. So we have these receipts completed, and I put them under supplies and materials because that's what they are. I documented what they were, where they came from, how much, the date. Do I have the invoice in hand? Yes. Do I have proof of payment? All of these were credit card receipts, so both the invoice, quote unquote, and the proof of payment are the same thing. They're a credit card receipt. And as I had no equipment, under contractual, I had all these folks got paid honorariums for the play. So we have canceled checks for all of them. And then for our local advertising, we did some online meta ads. So we paid it with a credit card there. And we have a canceled check for the radio ads and the newspaper ads. This gives us a total spent of $10,214. our grant amount was $9,800. We did not have a required match, but that meant we spent of our own money $414. And you'll see I have some other columns here. This column here, that's H, is the application dollar amount, or the application budget, I should say. There we go, application budget. And then this is showing the difference. So you'll note that the original application budget matches the total amount here under grant amounts, and the overage matches on both sides here. So that's how I know how to fill out the form that I just filled out. And here are my in-kind donations that I put down at the bottom. Again, they don't count towards a match, but they do count. So you can add those and encourage you to do so. And so I have this form, and again, I have a blank. I'm going to send this out to everybody who's on the call today. If you registered for the webinar, you should be getting a follow-up, but I'll also post them online. This is a blank form, and you have an example of that goes along with my Back to the County play that you can take a look at and fill out, and that helps you complete your expenses, your paid expenses. Now, what does make this difficult sometimes is what if you go over and you have, let's say you had $9,000, all of your money you spent in supplies and materials because everybody donated their time, so you spent more on the set. So if you had $9,000 under actual receipts, so under expenses this period, then it would be too much of a change of shifting from one section to another, and it wouldn't let you do it. And that's when you do a contract amendment. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. But so if you get a little red line or a red note, it's probably because you've made a big enough change between sections that it causes a red alert. It's a 10% difference. If you change you're from one section to another more than 10%, then you will end up with a little red alert. And once you complete this section, just like we did on our application, we're going to mark it as complete. And that leaves us our last section. This, not the other section, but right here, we've got our little paper clip, which means I can add a new attachment, and I can get, what I would recommend highly is doing one scan. So that we're going to say test receipts. Okay, and so they're all on one. It saves you from having to upload one by one. It saves me from having to download one by one. So if you have a way to scan all receipts at the same time, great. If not, that's fine. You can still load them one at a time. But if you can do them where they're all on the same PDF, bless you. That is a gift to both of us. All right, we're going to save that. I now have a receipt here. I'm going to mark it as complete. You'll now see that we have check marks all the way down on our status report, which is, this is the type of status report, is a final report that we're doing right now. So, and we have a green go ahead here. We have this submit status report here. We're going to, once we hit the red button, we can't edit anymore. So now we can scroll back down the status reports. We can see submitted for both our semi-annual report and our final report. The last thing we want to do is I want to show you how to do a contract amendment. So you put in your contract amendment by going to contract amendments here, this tab, or you can go back to your report list and scroll down to contract amendments, add an amendment, and I'm going to do a contract extension because we want to say extension for script completion benchmark. I'm going to say script took longer to complete than expected. Need another month to finalize for peer review. Please approve contract extension. Normally contract extension, and you want to put a date on here to May, put to when you need to extend it. Normally you would only do a contract extension if you want to extend the end of your grant, but if you have a big change in your benchmarks, you can do the same. I'm going to save the form. It's not done yet. I've got to mark it as complete. I can do attachments just like on our status reports. I'm going to mark it as complete. I'm going to submit the status report and I'm going to submit it. So now if we go back to contract amendments, we have submitted this extension for the script completion benchmark. And those are our reports that we do in the system. So I'm going to go quickly back over here. And you should be able to see my slide. And just quickly want to let you know that we have an opportunity. I get asked a lot, can you apply for another grant? The answer is yes. Make sure that instead of starting a new one, you are copying an existing application. You can use your current application to duplicate that. The deadlines are coming up. We have the monthly grants for this fiscal year, which ends on June 30th. We have April 1st, May 1st, and June the 2nd are the final monthly grants for this fiscal year. Major and premier project grants, we have a deadline on March the 26th. And on June the 26th, all at 3 p.m. If you're watching this after those times, you can check out our website for our later dates and deadlines. And just a reminder that this will be on our webinars page that we showed you earlier. You can share with your colleagues. And also, if you do need, particularly Tuesdays and Thursdays, I take appointments, but anytime I'll be glad to set up a one-on-one if you'd like to walk through this one-on-one. And you may be getting some help from Miss Karina Patel, who is our new grants assistant. You can email her at grants@southcarolina250.com, or you can email me at hhawkins@southcarolina250.com. And I want to thank Karina is on here, as is Brett Torstel, our new chief of staff. So we're glad to have them on board today. If y'all have any questions for them or for me. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions. Someone says it was very helpful. Good. Yes. So Kathy, you have a question, unmute yourself. And can you get unmuted?
I'm quite sure the answer is no, but,
Okay.
but I thought I'd ask, because we just found out this morning, the for finding the slave quarters that we need to photograph, they had budgeted around $1,000, and they're finding out that it's more like $10,000. So they're hitting the panic button, and we are hitting the panic button. And so we're trying to come up with a solution. And my question is, would it be possible to do one of the smaller grants, the monthly grants, because we have that additional fee that we had not anticipated?
You could certainly put in for it. I could, they're competitive, but you could certainly put in for that. The contract amendments do not allow for a change in the amount of your grant. So you couldn't just do that. That would sound simpler, but you would have to put in for a new grant if you wanted to increase your amount that you have.
Right. Okay. But yeah, I could put in for another grant. I know I can't increase what we've got.
Yeah.
But I can write another grant.
Yes, ma'am.
Hopes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. Other questions? Does anybody have a question about when their grants or their reports are due?
This is a stupid question. When is the webinar?
So this is the webinar.
Oh, good. So I thought maybe there was another one coming up that I didn't know about.
You made it on time. You're right here. You're here for the webinar.
Okay. So if we had other questions that piled up over the next, 4, 5, 6 weeks, you say Tuesdays and Thursdays, you might be able to do like a personal one-on-one Zoom.
Absolutely. You just go to our website, go under resources, grants, and go down to where it says schedule a consultation. Click on that button and you can see what my schedule. So I'll be in Virginia next week for much of the week. Unfortunately, because we're going to a national conference with the Virginia 250. But I will be back after that. And that's why I wanted to do this now, because I know a lot of you have reports due on May 15th.
Great. Thank you.
Heather,
Yes.
this is Paul.
Okay.
Would you tell us more about that May 15 deadline, what it is?
So it depends on what you have in the system. So as I was showing earlier, you can log in, go to your grant, go down, and I can do it again. Let me share again. Let's go to just screen one. So you can go to your grant, and I'm going to use my number to look it up because I have a bunch of them. All right, and then I'm going to scroll down to status reports. So some of you may have status reports, like semi-annual reports that are due May 15th. Some of you may have final reports, but most of you probably have something due on May 15th. Not all of you. Those of you who just got your grants may not have one because it's not enough time between receiving your funding and the end of the fiscal year. But most of you will either have a semi-annual report or a final report due on May 15th. So you can find out which one by going into your grant and going under the status report tab.
All right, good. Thank you.
Heather, if two people are working on a grant, are we seeing the same thing when we log in? Like, is it when I update it, the person who logs in with her account, is she seeing the updated whatever I've done, as she signs in later?
Yeah, so if you need to somebody do the finances, somebody do the narrative, that kind of thing, you can certainly do that. We don't encourage you to be in there at the exact same time. Sometimes the system just gets a little pinky. But you can both work in the same report. Yes, as long as, and this is really important, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Under your grant list, under general information, it's not gonna let me do that. Never mind. Okay. You see where we have additional grantee contacts here. So this is the grantee contact, and this is additional grantee contacts. As long as y'all are both listed on here, you should be seeing the grant either way, whoever signs in.
Okay.
But you're not going to see the grant unless you're listed somewhere on here. So if they did not list you on the application, it will, when it copies over to a grant, you won't be listed there. But I can manually add you.
Okay.
Or the person who is the grantee primary contact can manually add someone else to additional grantee contacts. Now, those have to be people that are listed in the system under your organization.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. All right, other questions?
Heather, I had a question about the budget. So I saw where there were the major categories were like of the approved grant, but I couldn't see the detail on my grant. I wasn't quite sure where to drill down to find that.
Okay. So good question. And let's go back to share. All right. So I'm going to go to my grant list. Right down here, you've got your budget. And there's my grant. These are my details under supplies and materials. So you can either look there or let's see, does it show you? I have a different view on mine. So let's see. Does it show you? Well, yeah, you can also look at your full application. But if you need to, and Sunny, I know that you have a partial fund. So if we need to adjust what category some of that funding is under, you and I can work offline to do that. We can make those adjustments since you're just starting out on your grant. Okay.
Heather, when we're submitting a grant application and for the budget, should we have estimates as from all the vendors that we might be dealing with, or do we kind of?
Ideally, and I'll tell you, particularly if you're looking at site grants, that's something that I know Mike Tyler, our site development manager, looks at that very carefully. It's not required, but it is best practice.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Heather, it's Chris Weatherhead. I was
Yes.
trying to write fast about the site visit. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure, that's a great question. It's not really a site visit per se. Sometimes it is. Sometimes I might say, well, I'm going to come see the play that you're putting on. So this, and I might actually come in person, or Parina might be signed to come, or and do a report. But the site visit more than likely is going to be a Zoom call or a phone call, just so we can say, yay, it took place, or you know, I understand y'all had to postpone because of COVID, you know, as you know, you've had to do that before, you know, that kind of thing. So we just want to document and see how can we help you get across the finish line. That's all the site visit is. Nothing on your end do you required to do. It's all us reaching out to you guys on the site visits. So if you get a notification that a site visit is coming due, then I would say what you could do is reach out and say, I'm free, you know, Wednesday afternoon. If you are, you know, I'd love to chat and we'll catch up. So it's mainly just a in between reports, seeing how well everybody's, you know, keeping up.
Do we assume that there are, in the course of the grant period, going to be several site visits?
Depends on how long the grant is for. If it's just a year, I would say there'll probably be one, if that, you know, but usually we try to do one. Other than once you get into basically one a year is what I would say.
Great, thank you.
And Heather, I have another question. It's Paul Wood.
Sure.
You know, I'm working on a publication, and at the last meeting of the commission, which I attended via Zoom, there was a report made that a group of scholars were being put together for the commission's work, and not a whole lot was said about what they would do, but will they be involved in evaluating and or approving the publications?
Yes, that is my understanding. Now we do have a commission historian who does the bulk of the peer review up to this point. We do actually have several peer reviewers, but Ben Rubin is our primary historian.
Yes.
Who's an expert in the American Revolution time period that we're talking about. So you probably will go through him, and then any thing beyond that would go to the full advisory committee.
Advisory committee. Okay. Well, thank you.
Could you say that name again?
Ben Rubin is our historian that is officially our historian, a part-time historian with the commission.
How do you spell that last name?
Rubin.
Rubin. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those who don't know, we have a group of people headed by Dr. Walter Edgar, who is our new advisory committee. So he's the chair of that, and they will be working with many different projects, but particularly with publications.
Smart thinking.
Good guy to have in charge.
Yes.
The man who literally wrote the book, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, unless we have any other questions, I think that was all we have for today. Thank you guys so very much for joining us, and we really appreciate all that you do. We're excited to get these things across the finish line, and sorry there's all this paperwork that has to come with it, but we've got getting a lot of great stuff done for the American Revolution in South Carolina.
Oh.
All right.
Hey.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
We appreciate you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks. Because of y'all, we're getting stuff done. All right.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
Bye.